Alright everyone, we start off today talking about, well, I don't know what news we're going to be talking about first this morning. It's a big mystery. What could possibly be on my mind for main things to talk about? Link in the description, archived of course. Don't give them that clickbait. Yeah, I think that I'll cover the raid by the FBI at Donald Trump's Mar-A-Lago. Yeah, that seems like slightly important, a little bit significant. Here's my initial hot take. Trump has put out a statement and said, look, the FBI came, they cracked one of my safes, and they were looking for classified material. So this is apparently pertinent to the investigation into whether Donald Trump improperly removed classified material from the White House and was storing it improperly. There is a really big glaring problem, and has been, to tell the truth, the entire time, with that case, which is that it is effectively a doppelganger of another fairly recent FBI case that, by the way, led to no charges being filed, and that's Hillary Clinton's email server. I'm not trying to do the whataboutism thing, but I do think that the end result is effectively the same. This is a Banana Republic-style hit job, but I don't think the FBI actually believes that they're going to find anything actionable there. Of course, if you find a couple of low-level classified documents in the Mar-A-Lago safe, how do you justify prosecuting Trump unless you can prove malice? Because you let Hillary Clinton off, that was, years ago. She improperly stored literally thousands of pieces of classified and even top-secret material in her private server. Then improperly disposed of things, using bleach pit and hammers, famously, but was not charged. The litmus test for the highest level people in the country is not the same as the litmus test for you. For you, it's, hey, you had something you're not supposed to have, we're charging you, bye, you go to prison. For a former president or presidential candidate / former first lady or someone like that, the litmus test is apparently, did they know that it was wrong to do this, and was there some improper usage of it? So Trump takes a classified paper and peddles it to the Saudis in return for $1 million or something. That'd be pretty substantial. I think that would lead to charges. I don't think that you're ever going to find that happened. This is a Banana Republic move, though. The fact that the FBI would raid the Mar-A-Lago is beyond the pale. This should be extremely worrisome to people. I like seeing some of the liberal cope on the issue, not praising the FBI, number one, but also pointing out, and this is true, the current FBI director was a Trump appointee. One of the biggest problems that Trump has, even among his own fans, and I happen to be one of them, we'll remember Mike Pence and my warnings about him many years ago, was hiring the wrong people. Because he's such a showman that instead of going for people that are going to be, inner circle, more confidant-like, he goes for the person who fits the personality role that he wants for the situation. Pence was chosen because he would shut up and stay in the background, not because he was going to be loyal to the Republic or loyal to MAGA or anything like that. It was a bizarre move at the time, one that got me off the Trump train for a while, till Gary Johnson began to implode, and I'm proud that I abandoned that before his Aleppo moment too. My other initial hot take is that this carries a damn high goddamn risk, and that proves to me that the establishment remains completely buttfuck terrified of Donald Trump. They are goddamn livid over the possibility of him re-entering politics, and they know he can pull it off. That's why they're so worried. You have, by the way, seen a re-solidification of the entire MAGA right, with DeSantis coming out not only the other day beginning to campaign for Trump-endorsed candidates, that has nothing to do with the raid, just pointing it out, and I will be talking about it in the live stream later. I'll probably go more than an hour today because this news will probably take up an entire hour in and of itself. Just to be clear, I'm going to try to get that in at a reasonable time for the early bird audience that went to bed before the raid happened. Well, people go to work, they have to sleep sometime. Now he's denouncing it, literally calling it a Banana Republic move by the regime, which is the Biden regime. And he's right. The risk of backfiring is this. Some people are initially saying, well, the FBI is not going to find any dirt on Trump. He's been investigated by literally every legal and political edifice for half a decade. They've never found anything actionable. This is the result of corruption, and they're going to plant evidence. Okay, so some people think they're going to plant evidence. Some people think it's a fishing expedition, so they dream up the cockamamie idea that he's improperly storing highly secret documentation, but really they're there to look after tax documents, or just to bug the place or something like that, as part of a much greater and quasi-illegal probe in order to try to stick it to him. The FBI is engaged in both behaviors before. The FBI also works with beat cops that plant crack on people on the regular basis. Apparently the liberals have no problem with this now because it happens to be Orange Man being raided. The problem is that even if they find something actionable, I'm suspending disbelief here. I don't believe Trump did anything wrong. I don't believe that he's trying to sell secret documents or be shady or anything. I think it's the system that's shady. I think Donald Trump genuinely cares, and that's why they have such a big problem with him. They realize that if he gets back into power, he will continue to break the toys, and they want globalism. They want you to live in the pod. They're pretty open about this at this point. They're completely out of touch, and they want you effectively to be serfs. They want me to be a serf. They want you to be a serf. And Trump is standing in their way, and they don't fucking like it, so they're trying to take him down. But even if they do find something actionable, how are the MAGA fans going to respond? They're going to respond by bringing up Hunter Biden, which is a semi-pertinent point. It's already trending for a reason. Hillary's email server, which I bring up, it's closer related to what they're claiming about Trump, at least, than the Hunter Biden shtick. Of course, Hunter not being actually in politics at the time. It's more about his relationship with his father, who was in politics at the time, potentially involved in a quid pro quo. Nobody cares about him smoking crack and fucking hookers. Okay, it's sleazy, he's a weird dude, but, you know, illegal as it may be, it didn't affect the average U.S. individual beyond the fact that it was probably in part taxpayer funded. Let's say they do find something. Is anyone who supports Trump going to believe that it wasn't fabricated or planted there in the first place? This is a no-win scenario for them. They end up angering a good 35-40% of the population, shoving us further down the gauntlet into banana republicdom, for absolutely nothing, just because they're afraid of one specific individual who they know actually is capable of maneuvering around their plots, because he's done it before. They were not happy about it in 2016, to the point where there was a great honkening in 2020. If they're willing to go to the lengths that we saw in 2020, why would I not think that they would plant evidence? If they find anything actionable, they're also further hard-pressed whether they're going to charge him or not, because they've let off other political operatives who have done similar things. Again, famously Hillary Clinton. Comey comes out and says, look, the law was broken literally thousands of times with this one server. But we don't think there was any malice, and, the files never got sent off to a foreign dignitary or a spy or anything, so we don't care. We're not recommending charges at this time. She didn't know what she was doing. Well, Trump can claim the same thing. If he shows up and uses the Hillary Clinton defense, it just hyper-politicizes the nation, and maybe Tim Pool might end up being right. You end up with a revolution of sorts or something like that. By the way, another prediction. This will be used, if it gets deeper than this. I mean, if the FBI doesn't find anything, genuinely doesn't fabricate or plant, and they say, look, we didn't find anything in his safe, so what do you expect us to do? Which, by the way, would be a godsend for Trump and ensure he wins in 24, probably in part on a platform of abolishing the FBI, which I support completely because it was never meant to be permanent. Razorfist has talked about that. Go see his video on the subject of the Tommy gun toting era and moonshine distilleries and Al Capone and things like that. The problem is this. Nobody's going to believe the charge if it's made. Nobody's going to care. Half the country thinks that Trump is guilty as sin. The other half thinks that he's innocent. It's completely political. We have to wait and see the actual warrant and all the other paperwork that led up to this. And one final thing that I would like to point out, and this is really important, to people that are saying, well, just imagine how much evidence the FBI had to have in order to raid a former president. Dude, they've been looking into his taxes without any evidence fruitlessly for the better part of a decade. They've looked into virtually all of his actions from top to bottom with a fine-tooth comb in the Senate, various House committees and subcommittees, the FBI, the IRS, everyone, the DOJ. They're all involved, and they've never found anything on him. This is a Banana Republic-style witch hunt. So my final prediction is that this will actually affect content creators. I believe that this will be used as a cause to try to purge more people off platforms like Facebook and YouTube. At some point, they're going to say, if you question the evidence in this Mar-A-Lago raid case, then this is disinformation. You're probably being paid by Russia, so we're going to kick you off the platform. So, when you give hot takes on this, be a little bit careful what you say, because the TOS, I imagine, in the next few weeks will be expanded on multiple platforms. It might be grandfathered in and made retroactive as well, because they've done this multiple times with regards to political and non-political things over the last few years. Clearly, it's an attempt to screw content creators that are still independent and still using those platforms. This is why so many of us are algorithmically demoted, and it's become a huge problem too. Another good selling point for Trump, if he chooses to run for re-election, make breaking apart big tech or reining in their censorship and recognizing them as platforms instead of publishers, or actually suspending 230 protections for them if they don't act that way, a main goal. That'll get you a hell of a lot of podcasters, YouTubers, and TikTokers to fucking support your presidential bid. It's just free publicity, free advertisement. You don't even need to run ads at that point. Now, yeah. The raid is a Banana Republic move. It is corrupt. There is a 99% chance they don't find anything actionable. There is unfortunately a chance that they fabricate evidence or plant it. But even in the off chance that they find something actionable, it's not going to mean anything. A third to 40% of the population will not believe that any wrong was done. They will blame the FBI. Half the population will say Trump is guilty as sin, but they didn't need an FBI raid to believe that. They've believed that since before he was elected. So as far as people politics goes, what changes? Absolutely nothing. The only difference is that the FBI had the gall to go on a potentially illegal fishing expedition, and if they don't find anything and they're not really careful, if they don't fabricate the evidence and make it real believable, Trump is going to use that as a platform, and I mean, he can't help but win at that point. He could pull down his pants and shit on stage and probably still win. When every independent voter in the country says, you know what, the current regime is just screwing my finances, and Trump keeps getting attacked by all the people that are screwing my finances. They'll put two and two together. They're not dumb. They're independent voters, and they're independent voters for a reason. So yeah, very, very interesting case. I will obviously be covering this in more depth in my live stream. The other part is that DeSantis has denounced this, and that is, in my opinion, fairly important. Of course, he's the governor of the state in which the raid occurred. Obviously, law enforcement not cooperating with the FBI, it seems, on that case. That's about all. Peace out.